guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host Indira, and today in this little bonus episode, or part of the little trilogy for New Year's, I'm speaking with fellow podcaster Jake Smith. In case you don't know, Jake is a GB marathon runner. He's been an advocate for Red S after speaking about and opening up around his own experience of Red S, bringing a lot of light and attention to the matter and helping loads of people. If you haven't already, be sure to check out his podcast, Running with Red S. It's really great for a load of sharing stories around Red S. Initially, Jake and I were going to chat through some of the kind of achievements and overall stuff, reflections on the year as an episode, for a New Year's bonus, but it ended up being quite a nice little chat around Red S and some of Jake's reflections through the past year, which ultimately was a bit too long for a single episode. So this is going to be the New Year's Red S special. In short, we will get Jake on again another time to have more of a thorough in-depth chat around Red S, as I know that's something everyone's keen to hear about. But I hope you enjoy, and here we go. Sorry about the audio quality. Unfortunately, these were recorded when I'm not with my microphone, so hopefully it's still enjoyable. So, hey Jake, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. And yourself? Thank you for having me on this show.
Yeah, absolutely. No, my pleasure. Yeah, good. Thanks. Just kind of post-Christmas, I guess, blues maybe now. I don't know.
Also, like you said before, it just went by so quickly, Christmas. So already have to wait for the next one next year.
Yeah, I know. I guess something to look forward to.
Exactly.
Okay. So can you introduce yourself as, an athlete or, person?
Yeah, so my name's Jake Smith. I'm 25 years old. I am a professional runner for Nike and the NN running team. And my favorite distance is like the 10K half marathon. I've had a bit of a struggle this year with injuries and struggling with Red S, but I feel like of course, I haven't got rid of everything because it can take a few years, but I'm on the upward spiral in terms of blood health and everything like that. So I just want to come onto the show to share my thoughts, try and get people. I don't want to see any youngsters go through what I have done this year. So if I can get the message out across to everyone, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And Jake's got a podcast as well, Running with Red S. So if you haven't already checked that out, make sure you do for some more Red S specific stuff. Yeah, some really great content there. Oh, I think we've lost Jake. Okay, I think he's back.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there.
No, I think it's fine. Honestly, we'll just keep going. It's all good. No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some really, really key stuff. And yeah, I think we'll talk a bit about some sort of reflections on the year, and we can touch on kind of some stuff around Red S as well, and Jake's journey with that, because I know that's relevant to so many of you as well. And so I guess, yeah, what's your biggest lesson learned from the sport?
It's I think the biggest what into this year. It's like when I was younger, like I think the biggest thing is when I was younger, I kept looking up to people like Africans and that, and I wanted to be exactly like them. And if that meant live like them, be like them, look like them, that's what I kind of wanted to be. And it's one of those things where, like, I'll put my hand, say, for example, I skipped that many meals, but on the short term, because I was getting lighter and because I was actually, the most important thing is I was consistently training, I was improving, but I didn't put two and two together. And I didn't realize me getting lighter on a short term basis. Okay, maybe I ran slightly quicker, but after you've seen, like, after 3 years, my body just crashed. Whereas it's just little things, because I never really understood how Africans did it, and I didn't really understand how many of them were getting injured constantly, because they don't really portray that on social media. They only show like the best bits. For example, marathon runners only do two a year, so they could be injured for 2 3 months, but we never know that. And so I didn't really put two and two together, and I kind of wish I could look back at, like, go back to when I was like 18 and just say, like, don't do what you want don't think lighter's better and everything, because yeah, it's been a hell of a year this last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. And yeah, you make so many great points there, I guess. Yeah, with comparison, with especially, you mentioned their 3 years as well. It does seem from other guests that have come on and other people who've spoken about it. And yeah, I guess in my own experience as well, like it sort of starts off pretty well, your performance tends to increase, and it does take a while for it to kind of catch up with you. So yeah, definitely some really like insightful points there. And so I guess, this year hasn't necessarily been ideal for you. What's your next biggest goal or thing that you're hoping to achieve?
I have a few big goals next year. Like I'm now running consistently, which is great, and I feel it's like the last 2 weeks I feel stronger than I've ever done in terms of like in the strength training in the gym and stuff. I'm lifting heavier than I've ever done, but it's just my recovery rate is now even quicker than it used to be, and I've always had quite a quick recovery rate, so I can like bang out a session and 2 days later I bang out another session and 2 days like I can now do that. Um, but next year it's just about building. Like I want to get quick. Like I don't want to be another number, say, for example, in a marathon where I just run a time, or if I went to the Olympics, for example, just run a time and come 30th, 40th. I want to compete. And in order to do that, I need to get my speed up. I need to be able to run. I mean, Kiptum in Chicago ran a 4:17 mile at mile 22 or something. So I just need to, like, maybe not to that extreme, but I need to be able to pick up. And when some of the Africans make a surge, I need to be able to cope with it. So I think next year is just exactly what I need to do, and I just don't want to get any more injuries because I keep saying to people like the consistency is the most important part. Like if you get out there, I'd rather have 6 or 7 out of 10 sessions every week, every for the whole year, than have say a 10 out of 10 session for 2 weeks and then the next 3 weeks be 2 out of 10 because you've just absolutely basically killed yourself in the sessions. And another point is I've a lot of the time that I've done some huge sessions, but I haven't really shown in races. Whereas I feel like since my injury, people are amazed with my performances and not necessarily training because I'm able to now notch up another level. So like I'm keeping training a bit on the like almost putting 90% into it. But then on the race day, I feel incredible.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's definitely something that is so related to, I think, fueling and stuff as well. And you mentioned your recovery rate being a lot quicker, which is really great. And does that mean as well that it's easier for you to, I guess, push yourself in sessions or you've got more motivation?
Um, yeah, except for that, I still hate the first wrap of any sort of session. That first wrap is disgusting. But yeah, it's exactly like that. Like, of course, there's some sessions where you're hurting a bit more, but I just feel like because I'm recovering quicker, um, you're just able to like you just feel happier. You just feel stronger doing it, and I don't feel lethargic. I used to before when I was struggling with food and everything, I used to get quite hungry during sessions because I wasn't fueling right. Whereas now I'm not hungry at all during the session, which is the main thing, the thing I'm most happiest with because I know my body can get through it. Um, and I don't necessarily even like. Of course, I love eating stuff, and I don't necessarily look forward to it. But whereas before, when I used to restrict stuff, you almost look forward to every meal because you're like, oh my god, I'm allowed to eat. Whereas now I'm just like, okay, like yeah, I can have food, I can have whatever I want. Um, so it's just like that. I just need to keep going, and I hope people that understand. Like you can see if you're on my Instagram, like the shape, my body shape has changed completely, but I haven't since coming back from back stress fracture, touch wood, but I haven't been ill yet. Whereas last year, oh, I think it was every 2 weeks I picked up an illness because my body just couldn't cope.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It just intrudes on so many areas of life under fueling, and it's crazy how much of an impact it can have. And yeah, like training for food, that's so true. I remember when I wasn't eating enough, it would be like as soon as I finished the session, it'd be like the first thing on my mind, like I really want to eat now. Whereas these days I could actually like genuinely forget, like it's just the
Yeah,
two
yeah.
it's independent of each other and stuff. And I guess, yeah, you mentioned consistency, and that's something that has been a reoccurring theme in what people sort of attribute a lot of their success to. Do you think that for you, or do you think, like, I guess, having reflected on things, that you would rather, or that you do currently train, like, I know you mentioned sort of being at 90-95%, so you've got the 100 in the race. Would you even drop it lower to like 80% in training for like having longevity and
Oh,
consistency?
100%. Like I do say 3 sessions a week, and I'm a big believer into heart rate. And I don't know why it sounds so cheap, but I'm now going off cadence.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's weird. So I've realized like the last I did Great South of 15K, and when my pace in Valencia, it was all the exact same cadence. And that's basically where my threshold is at. It sounds so stupid, but so when I run now, I don't look at pace on the watch. I just keep the lap like so a lap spit. So it says like counts up to it just beeps every K. Don't have a clue what pace I'm running. I just run off cadence. So my cadence for say 302 per kilometer, 302 is 186. And so if I'm doing a session, I'm like, okay, my coach is giving me threshold. It's the best way for it because I used to go with heart rate. In the first rep, you're absolutely booting it because you're like, I need to get my heart rate up, I need to get my heart rate up. And then in the second or third rep, it could just be too high. Whereas cadence, as soon as you set off, after about 20 seconds, it's there. And I feel like if it's a tough loop or something, because when I used to train on tough loops, I always wanted to hit the exact same paces that I could on a flat. But I said to my coach, look, if I can hit the same cadence, I'm still working the same. And that's all I've been doing since like May or June, and I've just kept stepping up, stepping up. And I know where my like cadence is from a fight. It's so weird, but I really really enjoy it.
Whoa, no, that's crazy. I love that though, because I think it's sort of more like intuitive in a sense. It takes it away from the numbers and more on effort, which is what
Exactly,
you want. But it seems to have
exactly.
like that correlation. That's actually crazy. You must be
Yeah,
consistent.
yeah. It's nice as well because I know like I love the chorus data, so I look through like if I did a 5K for example, or on the track, I look at exactly what my cadence would be for say 250 per kilometer. And then if I'm running the road and I'm hitting down, I'm like, okay, if I need to bring it back a bit. And it's good because when I do 3 sessions, one of them I do hit hard because it's, on the track, you kind of want to get the speed work in. So that's the most important session. On a Thursday where my parents live in Seaton, it's like hills galore. So that's just on effort. So that's just on cadence. I just run to effort, run to feel because it's always windy now for some reason. It's just a strength based session. And then on Saturday, it's like more temper based. So of course I'm still, like you said, 18 to 90%. That's where I'm working at. I think Tuesday's slightly harder because you just want to get that leg turnover. Then the other two, like you said, up drop below. You can see the pace. My paces are different, but honestly, cadence is like I would if you know what cadence you are for a race, I really, really would like say to do it. I don't know why it is, but it is working for me at the minute.
Damn, no, that's so cool. To be honest, I never look at my watch, but I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna attempt the cadence thing. It sounds really cool. No, that's
Yeah,
great.
it's nice because it's like I don't know why I did it, but I was running Great South Run, and I kid you not, I was not looking at what pace I was running. I was just looking at my cadence and heart rate the whole way around, and because I knew about what approximate it was like bang on. Um, I didn't do it for Valencia pacing because I had to make sure I was hitting the right splits. But then in every session now, like this morning, I did a session and the guy said, "What pace you run?" I said, "Mate, I'm going to hit 186 to 190 cadence." He's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "I don't have a. I know it's where it's approximate about." Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Nice. That's really cool. Maybe you start a new trend, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Everyone's been
Hopefully.
doing it wrong. Oh, okay. And what's the number one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
uh, uh, I think it's actually don't look up sometimes to so everyone almost looks up to the best Africans. There's a few Brits I wish I kind of looked up to more. Who like, for example, Steve Jones, he had the marathon record holder, and he was like, it was. There's some marathon guys back in the 1980s who said they would do a session and get drunk. They would have beers all week, and they've run 208, 209 for a marathon, but they were almost enjoying life as it was more. Whereas I felt like because I was looking up to the Africans, and when I went to Uganda, for example, they're doing nothing else but training and sleeping. Whereas I feel like us Brits have, no offense to them, but because of the access to different, like for example, in Uganda, there was no access to, like you couldn't go to a cinema, you couldn't go anywhere to a, whereas because we have these accesses, I feel like now you just want to enjoy it. Like if you stop enjoying the sport, then you need to take a step back. And I feel like there was a lot of Brits out there in the 1980s who I could have looked up to more, say Seb Coe, Steve Ovett, because they were training, they were enjoying the sport as well, and they were enjoying their home life as well. And they never looked too skinny or anything. They looked strong the whole time, and they had such a long career. And it's one of those where I just felt like someone actually messaged me, this youngster, about whether to get um a dietitian involved, and I feel as though a nutritionist at a young age may have helped me, so I would have understood it more. Just not given me a plan, but just said, okay, this is important, this is how much you should be eating, and so on. But I think the biggest thing is to enjoy it, because I feel like when I was 16, 17, I went to a school I absolutely hated, and I just felt like I lost friends from it and stuff like that. So I just feel like I just wasn't enjoying the sport. I felt like it was a chore, and I feel like a lot of youngsters do feel like the sport is a chore. Um, so yeah, I think it's the enjoyment side. Like as soon as you lose enjoyment, you just need to take a step back, do some other things before you get the enjoyment back.
Yeah, definitely some really solid advice there, guys. And yeah, it's so interesting you say that, even especially like 16, 17, I feel like I was in a very similar position at that time. And I think that's sort of where a lot of people, it can, I guess, maybe reach that point where it becomes more of a chore. It's kind of funny. It starts off as something you enjoy, and then, like you say, you can sort of look to others around you, and that can sort of lead you to start trying to live someone else's life. But there's so many things with that. It's like you're saying, number one, you're not that person, you're not in that environment or that context. You might have differences in terms of culture, like race, all sorts of things that can impact. And then again, like you mentioned earlier, it's only snippets of someone's life. So you're there trying to live someone else's life based off 1% of information about their life, and it just blows it out of proportion.
Yeah, no, and yeah, it's just I think there needs to be more, like what you're doing with all this is incredible, because I just felt like when I was young there was nothing out there. There was no podcast. There was nothing. No one you could like look up to. Of course, there were athletes who were doing so we were living in like the Farah era, but I just felt like he was a massive role model, but no one really knew what he was doing, and he didn't really explain how he coped with everything. And that's why I feel like that's what I'm trying to do now, is just show people, don't almost go through what I did. And yeah, and then I think there can be a lot more youngsters in the sport, because the sport is getting worse ultimately, like less participation and everything. When you think about how many millions of people do the marathon like majors every year, and it's quite a shame in the UK. And I feel like we can really, really increase the participation, but we just need these people just to stand out and just show what is good about the sport and how to overcome the bad times.
Yeah, definitely. I love the use of the Farrah era, and that's really cool. And yeah, I think you make such a great point as well. It's kind of the transparency, and there really was nothing out there, say even 5 years ago. And now I feel like we're starting to get stuff out there. There's starting to be a lot more podcasts, a lot more information. I mean, what you shared with your story is incredible, and I know so many people have found that really useful. But I think there's also, I don't know what you think, but maybe in some ways it's almost like a false economy in that people are starting to share, but there's not quite enough depth of sharing, that people are maybe taking away elements without the full story and then assuming that something's the case, but actually missing small bits of information.
100%. I think the best person who started to really, like, for example, Red S and stuff, who started to really share the story was Pippa Warren. Like she helped me last year, and she first, because she went through a horrible stage as well and tried to come back, and she did come back for a few years very well, ran for Britain after struggling with Red S, but she had no help support. And now we have that figure. Now people are like starting to open up. And like when I first told everyone I was struggling with Red S, like so many people, of course I won't name names, but messaged me saying they struggle with the same thing. And it's horrible to see like they weren't talking to anyone. They were really, really bad, and they just needed someone. Like for example, Pippa Wolven would have had this someone just to say, "Look, it's okay. You can get back out. You can get out of it." There are a few people. There are people out there who are getting out of the same situation you're in.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Pippa's stuff's absolutely incredible. And if you haven't already heard of or know about Project Red S, that was set up by Pippa Wolven. So much information on that. I'll link that down below actually. And yeah, no, 100%. I mean, when did you first hear of Red S actually? Like when did it come to your attention?
It was genuinely probably 2 months before I noticed I had it. Someone brought it up. It was really, really, I remember the exact time. So it was, I used to see food as almost like a royalty. So I'd only have foods, like, I would only allow myself to have like takeaways and like actually eat properly. Not even properly, but just eat more than enough when I had rest weeks. But then when I had my rest weeks, and then I'd feel almost quite not guilty at the end, but I would put on like, of course, because I used to weigh myself so much, like every day almost. And you know when you eat a lot of food over a week, like your body expands a bit, but it's almost a false weight at the end. And I would see this figure, and then I was like, okay, I need to lose it. And I remember exactly like I had a week off, and then I got back into training. And after this week off, one of my best mates said to me, like, he literally came up to me and said, Jake, you need like, I really, really am nervous for you. I was like, what are you saying? Like, I've had a week off. I'm like a normal weight. He's like, mate, that's a false weight. You like, we've been seeing what you've been eating and stuff like that, and we've been seeing what you were doing before, and we're getting really, really nervous. And then it was literally on a night out, like before I don't know, before 2023 came to a close. So sorry, when did I, yeah, 2023 came to a close. They were just like, look, Jake, we need support. We need you to start speaking to someone. So then I was like, oh my God, like not one person said this, like 5 or 6 people come up to me and said the same thing. And so then I got in touch with Pippa, and it took a while. Like I was living at home in a bit time, and my parents have been the best support. Like I don't think I would be running without their support. And of course, I was just like a dickhead for like a month. Like I was horrible because I was eating normal, but because my body was changing and everything, and I couldn't train properly, it was just, it wasn't, it was, I was really struggling. And then it almost felt like one day it just clicked, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like feeling better now. But it did took a long time. So I know people might assume it's like a click of the finger and you're better. Like if you eat normal for one day, you're like, okay, I'm getting back to it, but you're not. Like it's a lot of process, and it takes a long time. Even last year, we went to Lanzarote with my girlfriend and my parents, and I ruined that holiday for them because I was injured. But I think I did 24 hours of cross training just on a holiday. Just like I know some triathletes do this, but this was the time on a holiday with a stress fracture. And but I wasn't even eating properly, and I would go out. I remember like we would have food, and I would just leave the restaurant if I didn't want to eat. Like just left the whole situation. So I do owe them all like another holiday. But the year, like they said to me the other day, is like I can't believe you've made this much improvement in one year. But it does, like people out there, like it is a long process, and it can. You are gonna like you are. I can't say it's easy because you will have some bad days. Like you have to be upfront. You will have some tough days, but it will eventually. Like I can promise. Like if I got out of it, it probably took me honestly like when I first found out about Red S about 5 months to finally like really appreciate food. 5 months, like when you look at it in a lifetime, is barely anything. But 5 months might feel quite long for some youngsters.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, yeah, it just does have so many impacts, and that's why it is, I guess, such a crucial thing to talk about, and it has been the favorite topic of this podcast so far. It's what people have wanted to hear about. So yeah, it is just so important. And you mentioned there kind of starting to, or when you first reached out for help and how some of your friends told you about it. I think something that is needed now is more information around how to have the conversation, how to tell people, I think I'm concerned about you, because obviously talking about weight is such a touchy subject, especially within athletics. From your perspective, how would you approach the conversation of telling someone that they have red S, especially if they're in denial? Or
Uh,
that you think they might, obviously.
there's a few people out there who I see. I think it's bad because I had when I started because I've almost had like three bouts of it. So I was 15, 16, I food again, and that's when I first spoke to Cam. And both my sisters have struggled with food. My sister actually went to hospital 2 years ago for it because she went to like a BMI of 11 or something, but she wasn't running or anything. She was on the drip and everything. So my she was like not nearly ultimately could have died if she kept that going. So like my parents have been through a massive journey with me and my sisters. And there's a few people out there like, of course I don't know what they're doing, but I can see myself in quite a few people, and that's not just from social media, but I can only say to those people who I've met in person, because of course you can't just simply say if you see someone who's quite skinny on social media, you can't really just assume they have red S, because that's unfair. You don't know their background, you don't know what they're doing. They might just be naturally skinny, for example. There are a lot of people who are like that. And I think I used to, that's the thing I'm trying to get out of, because I'll put my hand up. I used to, if I saw someone who was too skinny, I'd think, oh, they're struggling with food. But you need to know their whole background. You need to know them in person. And there's a few people who I have now met who are struggling with it all. And I think the first person is you kind of just want to sit down with them and just be like, look, like, how are you coping with food? How are you coping with running? And the thing I've actually realized first is, because I'm a big believer in heart rate, is when I was really struggling, my heart rate couldn't go up. So it was so low, like when I was running, like extremely low. And if they have heart rate monitors in that, I would almost take an in-depth analysis of the last year and see if it's gone down, if it's gone up, how high they can get it, how they are, how many times they've got ill in the past 6 weeks, 6 months. And if I noticed that they kept getting ill and they really, really, their heart rate dropped massively, then I would talk to them and be like, look, okay, how are you coping with foods? What's your relationship with it? Because I think a lot of people who do suffer with red S don't have a good relationship with food. And as soon as they say, you can almost tell, because as soon as if they answer that straight away, like say, oh, it's fine. It's like, I think as soon as I hear that word, it's fine is the biggest lie in the world. Like, I mean, like, guys, when they go on with dates, or if their girlfriend's angry and they just say, it's fine, it's the same thing. It's like, almost a denial thing. And if they say to me, then I'm like, okay, look, I'm here. Like, we need to get you sorted, because, yeah, that's what I've noticed is if you ask them, okay, are you good with food? And they just, within a second, say it's fine, there is something up. And then I just explained like the year I've had, like a lot of people have seen how crap it's been for me, and I don't want they don't want to go through that. But because I'm not qualified, that's why I don't go into coaching yet, because I do think coaches need to have qualifications. Like, of course, a lot of runners can coach, but you're taking on another athlete. Like, you're in charge of how they recover. You're in charge of their sessions, and if they keep getting injured, it's almost on you. So that's why I feel like you need to have these qualifications, and I feel like you need, in order to support Red S and everything, you need to have these qualifications. I don't know if there is such a qualification, but you need to have some sort of knowledge in order to do it. And so when people ask me, oh, I'm struggling with it, can you give me some nutrition help? The first thing I say is, look, I can't give you nutrition advice because I'm not qualified nutrition, but I can tell you what I'm eating and what's working for me. That's all I can give. And I think, because like you said at the very start, there's a lot of like false information almost. And then there are people out there you see on Instagram who like they do annoy me so much. They just give out like they almost give out this false knowledge. And I'm like, look, I don't really know, but I know that's wrong. Like you shouldn't be doing this. You're not qualified and stuff like that. And it's yeah, and that's why I think a lot of youngsters they need to look up to the right people, not the people with the biggest following. Like I might not even be right. So like if I'm giving the wrong knowledge, don't follow me. I'm just giving what I think. But yeah, there's just a few people who I'm just getting a little bit nervous for youngsters looking up to.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It just creeps up so slowly and it is a difficult conversation to have. And yeah, there's quite a few things that you said. I mean, firstly, I'm fine. I think that actually is the most common lie. I think
Yeah.
that's a genuine fact. So, there's that one. But in terms of, I guess, food and Red S and that relationship, do you think that it's possible to actually enter a state of Red S without a dysfunctional relationship with food? Or do you think that the two kind of do have to go hand in hand to some extent?
Oh no, I think it 100% does. I think the sport which struggles with it, I reckon 34% of triathletes, like I could be completely wrong, will struggle, will have red S. The amount of training they're doing, like
Yeah.
there's 20 to 24 hours of training, and I did it in that 1 week, and you are knackered. And you forget, like, you're burning so many calories in the pool, on the bike. If it's colder outside, your body's trying to heat itself up. So in the UK, if you go out for a 4 hour cycle, you have to add on the amount of heat your body's wasting. And okay, they might look fine and stuff, and they say, oh, yeah, but I'm taking all these gels and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, that's great. A gel, well done. Like, you need to get proper stuff. But I think they're the sport which struggles the most. And I've seen so many injuries from it. Um, and there is because people like it's just the quantity. I think people just don't know how much you need to be eating doing a sport. Um, and I think that's the main aim. Like people could absolutely adore food and have a good relationship with it. Could be eating, say, every 3 hours, but if it's not in the right quantity, then they could be struggling with relapse.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you mentioned there with it being you and your sisters. So I suppose, I don't know, to some extent, do you think that it's maybe like, I don't know if it's genetic or just the impact of growing up around each other, you could have influenced each other. And then with social media and other people within the running space, if a lot of people are like you're saying, oh, it's gels, that's all you need after a run. Do you think that that in itself, if we were able to change the culture maybe within running, there was more, I don't know, transparency or knowledge about how much to eat, what to eat, and it was shared more widely, that would be more positive? Or do you think that it's just negative in general to share so much around sort of food, when people post like their porridge bowl, they're like 15K run, this is what I'm eating. Well, yeah, what's your view?
Oh, like I'm gonna be honest, like I don't care about when people post these meals. I'm like, I don't care. Like I really can't be asked. Um, I'd rather just see the session, like rather see them running. Like, and then there's so many people out there who I follow who just post like their meals and stuff. I'm like, "Ugh, stop. And I've unfollowed quite a few for it. Um, and it's like it's not helping anybody posting what. And I think there's a lot of people who post who want to show other people. Okay, they say for example they put a meal out and there's a big meal, and they almost want to show people they're eating, but you never know if they're going to finish it or anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people, like I said, have no qualifications. Like a lot of them have struggled with food problems in before, and they're trying to show people, but who like other people don't care. It's within yourself. You need to be proved to yourself, and I think that's another reason I know some people are struggling is when they're constantly posting about it. Because I'm like, you don't need approval off anyone else. You need yourself to be the strongest person. I almost think like the best advice I got from some of the best advice I got from my coach is like, okay, say for example, they say, okay, if I do a double day and someone misses a run, your advantage. Almost look at it as food. If they're struggling, if not struggling with food, but if they're not eating right and you're eating right, you're an advantage. You don't skip a meal or anything, you're an advantage. And that's the best thing I think. And I think I used to want to like, if friends were eating, I wouldn't eat like at the same time or make my plate last. But now I'm like, okay, I want to be at advantage. I want to be stronger than anyone else. Almost, of course, I care about people, but I don't care about anyone. I want to put myself first, get my food in, and then focus on others and make sure they're okay. And like you said, there's a misconception. Like, there's so many people. Not enough people with the right knowledge. Like, I can up around. I'm not the right person. Like, I cannot give knowledge. Like, I would not be able to help anyone in terms of the ideal stuff they should be eating. But like I said, I would give them what is worked for me. So that's why I post about it and say, "Oh, this is what I'm having every day" and stuff. But I don't. That's what I kind of want to get into. Say what I've said to people. As soon as I'm like back to my best of running, and like I'm really injury free and everything. Like I don't have any injuries, but because the year I've had, I just need to make sure I'm at my strongest. Then I want to try and get qualified into it, so then I feel right to help people. But
Yeah.
right now, not enough, and there's only a handful. Like when people ask me about nutritionists, I just say the same people, like the same 3 names every time, because I don't know anyone else really.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you make a great point there, I guess, just to finish up with is, yeah, exactly, like you can train so much better. I know when I was sort of under fueling, it'd be times where maybe I'd like gone out for a meal. So I'd had like a lot to eat and then had to go training like a little bit tight. So I was like, oh, I'm a bit full. But then they turn out to be like the best sessions. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and so I guess, yeah, we're kind of nearly out of time. So what are you most looking forward to, or what do you think is the most exciting thing upcoming for 2024 in terms of the running scene?
What in the overall, like the whole
Yeah,
running?
like freedom of interpretation.
I want to see Keely get a gold, and then I want to see Jake or Josh or another Brit win the 15 golds at Olympics. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
I think the biggest one for like marathon Brits is seeing Phil Sessman get under that Olympic time. That's the major one for me because he's a good friend. He's a friend of mine and stuff.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, I know it's Olympic year, and I could say like the obvious ones like the world record going, but like everyone wants that and stuff. But yeah, I think that some of the Brits coming through are just incredible, and you just want to see the best out of them.
yeah, 100%.
So if we can pick up 2 of those goals in Olympics, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, no, that would be so great to see. So it was at this point that the Zoom meeting ended. Unfortunately, Zoom's now upgraded, so I can only get 40 minutes free with no restarts. So yeah, we have to end it there now. But it was, yeah, really great speaking with Jake. Obviously, he's got so much insight he can bring. He's been so open with his journey, and I know that that's helped so many people. So yeah, really grateful to you, Jake. And hopefully that was just a nice bit of kind of Red S talk, really, to wrap up the year. And hopefully the conversations will keep going and people steer clear of it in 2024. Have a great one, guys. Thanks for listening. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. This really helps to get the content out there. And I want to make this podcast the best possible for you. So go follow Fitter, Faster, Happier on Instagram. That's Fitter, Faster, Happier to leave your questions, comments, and feedback, and for updates and guest requests. All the best for the week ahead, guys. Run happy, live happy, be happy.